Hello, everybody, and welcome to another look at the Bagration Germans for Flames of War. Myself and Chris are now moving on to what is definitely our favorite topic of everything, and that would be model kits, and particularly model kits of tanks. But they're not all tanks this time. In fact, technically, none of them are tanks, are they, Chris?
No, they're not actually. Technically, the modifications have took them out of that class, but it's more exciting.
Yeah. So let's start with what we mentioned in the book chat, which is the starter set. And
yeah,
I'm going to immediately say this starter set is exactly what I want from a Flames of War starter set. And I know I've ribbed you about some of them before. I know you've been a little unhappy with what I've said about them before, but this is what I want in a starter set. Because it's got all the new stuff in it. It comes with transfer sheets, which some of the previous ones didn't, and has that where start here pamphlet as well, or that booklet, which is exactly what you need every time. But it's a hefty box. It's a lot more hefty than I thought it would be as well when I seen them come in. And I mean, we're getting a bit of artillery in there. We're getting some of the vaunted 88s. Because you can't have a German army without an 88 lurking somewhere in the background. We get some, what is this, Panzer Grenadiers with half tracks as well, which is always a good time. And then we get all the new stuff as well. So we have 3 new vehicles to talk about. But
we have indeed,
anything
technically 4, actually.
Technically four, but I'm gonna talk to you about that in a minute.
Okay. Yeah.
Get your head down, take cover, shots incoming. Is there anything particular you want to mention about the box then, Chris? Like what?
Well, I think you've pretty much summed it up. This is the perfect start for anybody who's not got a German army already. Just like the previous ones, but this one has got more to it, if that makes sense. So it's not all you need to play, as we've already said. You definitely need to have the book to know how to use the different armies, get some historical background, painting guides, etc. But the important thing here is that this is the starter point of a German army on itself. Yes, there's 100 points in the box, but you grab yourself a couple more box sets, and you've easily got a competitive 100-point force past that. So something that's really going to put a thorn in the side of Brits, Americans, Soviets, even another German player, all out of this one box. So it's all in there. Everything you need apart from glue, clippers, and dice. The only things you haven't got, but who hasn't got those at home as a gamer,
and aren't hard to get their hands on either.
And that's the other thing as well. It's a small add-on, isn't it, when you're picking it up from the store and stuff.
So we have a little bit of infantry. We have some artillery. We have some anti-aircraft, which I'm not sure there's been a lot of in some of the previous boxes. I can't recall.
No, there hasn't been, not as a plastic kit, no. So we've had the mobile wins and things like that, and they are the resin and metal models. So they've not really been as accessible for people because of them being a support option add-on, whereas it's talking of the Armored AA, because it's a plastic kit now, it's actually within some of the company formations. So I think off the top of my head, the Panzer IV has it as an optional grey box on the force diagram in the book. And that means that you don't pay a support cost and it's within the formation. So technically, it's a little bit cheaper, technically. And an anti-aircraft can take out the American P-47s, but equally you can turn it on the troops, and it's just as good at killing troops as it is on planes.
You can't forget that as well. So like it adds that little bit of extra anti-infantry punch as well, especially if your opponent isn't bringing support aircraft and stuff in, and you're sat wondering, what do I do with my spags?
Exactly.
Well,
what I do is sit them on the end of the line and use them as the anchor. So they're there to take out enemy infantry, and then you just pop your Panzer Grenadiers and the half tracks even, and charge them across the objective. Armored assault infantry, great.
so going from this box, then, when you have this amount of stuff, let's spitball what you would add to it. My first port of call would be to take that grenadier platoon and turn it into a company. I would definitely get more of that going.
So that is essentially, you will just need 2 boxes for that, because you can get the Panzer Grenadier box, and then you can pick up another box of half tracks. and there'll be enough models in there to do the HQ as well. So you've got your HQ at the top, and then you've got your 2 platoons.
Yep.
Personally, I think I'd probably pick up some Panzer IVs. It's an iconic tank. It's a medium tank. It's a good all-rounder, and it's the start of a formation in the book. So I personally would get some Panzer IVs and add some of these units out of this box actually onto that, if that makes sense, and use this box as a support option.
Yeah.
Probably the wrong way around to do it somehow, but it makes sense to me.
So in infantry and Panzer IVs is where we would probably go, because you don't necessarily need more tank firepower. Not necessarily. You've got it there.
Not as such, no. So because this is a tank hunter specific camp group, the idea is that my idea would be to have some medium tanks in there, really to soak up a bit of the damage, because the things with tank hunters, especially in game terms, is they're good at fire, sort of fighting and putting damage on the enemy, but they're not all rounder for taking it. They're not a tank, so to speak, and taking damage. The Panzer 470 does have pretty good armor on the front, actually, to give it its due. But if you get a couple of Shermans coming up the side of it with their stabilizer rule, which gets 2 shots on the side armor, then potentially start losing them fast. But it's also worth bearing in mind the Hit the Beach, the starter set that has the American force and the German force in it.
Yep.
That's Panzer IV based. Mm-hmm. So you've actually got some Panzer IVs if you've already bought that set, as well as those dice that you might need. Yeah. So actually, this combined with the Hit the Beach box set, you can actually go a long way to getting, well, actually quite close to 200 points.
Yeah, quite.
You've got the Panzer Grenadiers in there as well, of course.
Because and if you gave those Grenadiers out of Hit the Beach just some half tracks, I think that would
they could possibly go as Panzer Grenadiers. Absolutely, you'd probably just need to have a look at some of the composition of the units, because I don't think there's as many Panzer Shreks and Panzer Fausts as what you'd want to take within the list.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing. At this stage of the war, you need as many Shreks and Fausts as you can. And they've all got extra options now. So for a couple of extra points, you can actually take quite a lot of Panzer Fausts. And I wouldn't want to be hitting that with an armored Sherman company, actually, if you had dug in Panzer Grenadiers with all of that.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't be that silly, I don't think.
I don't think you would like my American army either facing it. So I think I've maybe 15 or 16 Shermans and two motor rifle companies, not platoons, companies. I have 2 full companies.
Yeah, okay, about that. Once again, we're not. This is why we can't play, John. This is why we're not allowed to play. Somebody will always end up in tears.
Well, when the lockdown's over, you'll come over and just be like, no. I brought the force that you're going to be playing as. I made this force because I'm not allowing you with any of your stuff coming over here and playing shenanigans.
Absolutely. So there is a couple of really nice units that you can combine with this to actually expand it out. I see these starter forces actually myself as a springboard to what you want to take from the game. Pop the command cards in there, and you can actually take historical formation that has got anything up to obscene amount of Hetzers. So you could actually buy another Hetzer box set on its own. Right the way down to taking a real mishmash of forces that have all got amended stats on them. And those amended stats could probably make it worse for you, but you get more of them. So it's a springboard set. If if you want to take it from there, from the 100 points that comes in the box. Yeah,
and having 100 points as a starter force is just great anyway. Because it will allow you to get playing straight away once you have it all built.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell new players to have it painted before they put it on a table, Chris. So
but it's part of the fun, as we know, isn't it? And they can check out some of your videos when you've done the 3 colours up, haven't you? On a ride variety of tanks, haven't you?
I definitely can always fit more in.
Yeah, by all means. I mean, you've got a whole box set there to paint. I want to see them all done. What box there?
What box set? It doesn't exist. You forgot to send it to me, Chris. I'm sorry.
Oh no! Once again,
send another one over. It'll be fine.
So let's talk a bit more about those that Armored AA platoon. I think you've got one already built there, haven't you?
I have one built because I have the box, which is great.
Yeah.
And the immediate first thing I want to say about the kit is you have enough turret pegs if you don't like magnets, and you have enough parts that you get to choose. So we have the Verbelwind, which is this little guy.
Yep.
But the parts in the kit also allow you to build the Ostwind turret, which is great. So you can just literally switch in and out if you prefer one over the other. I'm always a fan of the Verbal because I just like 4 20mm cannons. I don't care how effective a single 37 is. 4 20mm is going to trump that and looks so much
cool. You like the dice rolling. That's what it is. It's the sound of the dice hitting the deck. Yeah.
It's the moment from Band of Brothers on the Day of Days episode where they see a quad 20 in the background. Like, yeah, it was a gas gun, but it was going and I was like, yeah, I like that. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and then he moves in the silence as they reload, doesn't he? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, absolutely.
So having both options in the kit available to the kit rather than sometimes needing another box of them to make a particular part that needs to be on the kit to make it, you've just come right out and just made the kit have both options straight out of the box, which is perfect, absolutely perfect, especially when it's not a big mainline unit as the AA. You kind of want to just give the players the options to pick and choose.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we've been able to do it. And with it being in plastic, it's that idea that you can get a lot more out of the kit. Yeah, resin and metal is absolutely brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I love resin and metal. I love the heft of it. I love the way you can do crazy stuff with it. But plastic, it just gives you so much more options on that sprue to be able to do it. Yeah. I mean, I think the only thing I noticed with the Armored AA platoons, there isn't quite enough gun crew, and yeah, I'm a bit of a stickler for having my gun crew in them. So if I've got it as a Verbelwind, I've got them there, and then I was like, it's not enough crew for my Ostwind. I should have to buy another kit.
Just tell someone to put an extra pack in, because they're only half body resin crews anyway, Chris. It's not going to cost you anything.
Yeah, I'll make the call for you. Yeah, John says.
I'm going to get a lot of angry emails off Battlefront staff, aren't I? I'd welcome
it. Yeah, as a unit, it's fantastic. We've already spoken about the air asset. It is designed for taking out enemy airplanes. It's great against infantry. That Ostwind as well is really good at taking out light vehicles.
Yep.
So if you've got an American or a British player that's relying on the Jeeps that you saw from the last couple of releases, the plastic kits, there's a lot of them floating around. Yeah, they don't last that long in front of one of these. If you get your shots on, and because again the Germans have a really good train skill, that's all the way through the war, their trained army.
Yeah.
On average, even someone as bad as rolling as me can pretty much decimate light armed formations. So I wouldn't call it I wouldn't call it a support option. It's not a support option at all, actually. Not like you'd imagine AA would be.
Yeah.
Because most armies in Flames of War have the anti-aircraft as a support. This is a mainline formation. So the idea is don't just use it against planes. Use it against anything that's charging your position.
Always take it, because there's always going to be something for it to shoot at.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's very, very rare nowadays that you see somebody with an all-tank formation. And if you do, then you've got obviously the other options in the box as tank hunters to be able to deal with that. So, but it's very rare, because how else are you going to take and contest objectives, without infantry? So it's definitely an all arms game still there on that respect.
And a fantastic kit in general. I will have hopefully pictures up of the sprues and of the one that I've built and primed as well, because I mean, looking into the turret of each of them, because they're open topped, you can see where obviously the crew is meant to sit, but you've got stuff like the basket to catch the empty shell casings as they come out. Yeah. Particularly on the 37, I don't think there would be a basket big enough to carry the monsoon of 20mm shells coming out of the 4 of them. It must make the bottom of the turret of these things in real life quite busy.
Yes, I can imagine wading through the empty shell brass. Yeah.
But this is the thing between resin metal, which is fine because you like the heft, you like they feel a bit more special in a way, but you're never going to get that consistent crisp detail that you do on a plastic sprue. No. What I've noticed over time is that the more the molds are used in a resin metal kit, the less they are, and if you have to refresh them too much, sometimes that's not economical to do, particularly if you're only running them in small batches. So eventually you do see the resin metals kind of start to lose a bit of their fidelity and whatnot, particularly in the quality of details. But at least with the plastic sprue, even if the molds are starting to go, it's just a bit of flash. then you have the
Yes.
the exact same miniature hiding underneath that anyway. So it's
absolutely.
I will always praise Battlefront for putting something into plastic, because it just
Mm.
shows a certain level of dedication and maturity to the range as time goes on. Which is great, because everything we're talking about here is plastic.
Yeah, it is today. Yeah, and this is it. Yeah, absolutely. So that is, I mean, essentially that's your two brand new tanks there, because different turrets, so it counts as a different tank. That's okay. Yeah, absolutely. So that's actually one of my new exciting ones. I'm going to be popping a few of them, I think, into my German army, definitely.
Yep.
But I really want to talk about the Panzer 470, because this Panzer 470 is my favorite tank hunter that's coming in. Just the look of it. Just the look of it.
So this little guy here, that's what you're talking about. This is your favorite vehicle?
Yeah, honestly, I just love the look of it. I love the look of it. So I like Panzer 4s anyway. A Panzer 4 is a Panzer 4. For me, that is the German tank of the war. I know we could probably wax lyrical about, oh, well, Stugs versus. No, Panzer 4 for me all the way. It just is. From as a kid, Panzer 4 was always there with the shirts and on it. None of this unarmored one. Oh, no. Shirts and all the way. So to think that the Germans then took that and went, I know, we can make this better. So what we're going to do is put a really long gun on the front, take 7.5 centimeter, and with it being in that dedicated anti-tank role, it's not got the danger, I suppose, of a turret malfunction, because it's all built into the hull. The only thing they've got to worry about is the engine, and that's in an armored superstructure now. So I mentioned it earlier, and the front armor on these Panzer IVs is almost akin to a Panther in itself, just in terms of thickness. It's not quite as good as a Panther, of course, but they went, let's stick some armor on the front and send it into battle, and it did quite well, I think, as well. You don't hear of them as much as other tanks, but yeah, I quite like it.
The Stug kind of took the limelight. I think for a long time the Stug took the limelight, but there was more of them built, as far as I know.
Yeah, I believe so. So because it was on the Panzer III chassis, which obviously earlier in the war there was a lot more production, there was a lot more materials to make those. They very quickly became a thing, because I think a lot of them were not even converted from Panzer IIIs. I think it was his own production line, if I remember right.
Yeah. They started
just used Panzer III.
Yeah, they started producing Stugs alongside the gun tank anyway, because they were meant to be infantry support initially. So they had a doctrinal purpose, so they were built for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't hear too much about the Jagdpanzer IVs at all. I think there's only maybe one or two still running in the world. There's not many, so you don't even see them that much, let alone hear about them.
Yeah.
Obviously, the chieftain from World of Tanks went and seen the two that they have in Munster, which is the prototype one and a production one, which is class, because the differences even between them is interesting. But I always find that there's that iconic shape to the German tank hunters, that big slant front. You get it on the Hetzer, which we'll talk about in a minute. You get it on the Jagdpanzer IV, the Jagdpanther, and even Sturmtiger, which is really not a tank hunter, but still.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
All that superstructure, turretless vehicle, all the German stuff has this particular look about it. And they have their own sinister, sleek look to them that even stuff like Panther kind of lacks in a way. It's there. It has that sleek sort of appearance, but when there's no turret and it's a lot lower down, it's a lot more interesting looking.
Yes, no, absolutely, John. And this is it. And you're looking at just the front sort of mantlet on that, and it's just beautiful. It's got sexy lines on it. That's all I'm going to say. It's just lines. It's just nice and smooth. So, you're going to sculpt a tank hunter out of clay. That is what you do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So in the kit, we only really have one option, which is a difference between the two guns. So you get a longer and a shorter gun. Stat wise,
I think the 7.5 centimeter. It's just one's a long barrel, one's a short barrel. Yeah.
Stat wise, are we talking much of a difference there, or are you just going to take the long gun?
If I remember, at the top of my head, I think it's just essentially the long gun side of it. You've got the Panzer 470 and the Jagdpanzer IV in that kit.
Yeah.
So you can basically take either one. But no, in terms of the actual, it's more the armored option of it. So unlike the Hetzer and the Marder that we'll talk about in a moment, or any of the other tank hunters, it's got pretty good front armor. It can essentially go nose to nose with most of the, even Fireflies and things like that. It can go nose to nose with. It's just the danger of getting flanked on the side. So what I found so far is that you've got to have something protecting it, whether that's Panzer IVs or infantry with Faust or whatever, just to essentially protect its sides. That's the thing with it. But it's good. It's a good gun. It's a nice tank. It's a pretty tank.
Well, I think we'll move on to what I'm going to call the star of the show.
Yeah.
Because as much as your Jagdpanzer is a completely new plastic kit, I think, to be honest, there's something really special about the last one. And that is, of course, the Jagdpanzer 38T, or what we all now call the Hetzer, even though it was never called a Hetzer. This is probably one of the best kits that Battlefront has put out in terms of detail, terms of ease of build, and also just enough frustration to make me a little bit annoyed, but not terrible, not game breaking.
Okay.
Because it's almost but not quite a dual kit. So if you're clever with your magnets, you've got a dual kit. If you're not clever with your magnets, you've got to choose. Because in the kit, you get almost enough parts to make a Marder 3, which is one of my favorite tank destroyers. Because there's two of them in Saving Private, or one of them in Saving Private Ryan, which set on fire with a Molotov cocktail.
Of course, yeah.
But I think for terms, and I'll have pictures up of these obviously as well as we're talking about them. In terms of the tidiness of the detail, the attention to the detail, like having enough parts with the Marder to have internal ammo storage and have a little bit of something going on the inside. To have the two hulls completely on the sprues as well, just minus the set of tracks, I think is absolutely great. And still having enough options for having the crew sticking out of one of the hatches and having crew in the back of the Marder. It's just great. And when I got these through first, I was like, I want to know how you've done the Hetzer side skirts, because Hetzer side skirts are a pain in the ass when they're not designed properly. And what you've done is basically mold them onto the mud guards. So they follow the line of the mudguards and they just match up with the brackets on the side of the hull, which is exactly how I wanted it to be. Because
exactly. So
on larger scale kits, they're a pain.
Yeah, I mean, even like the Panzer IVs and things, the shirts normally go onto the side, whereas this one, like you say, it goes on top and hangs down the side. It does. The mudguards don't actually attach technically themselves; they're already attached.
Yeah.
Because when I first looked at this kit, I went, "What is that bit? That doesn't make any sense." And then reading through the instructions, I'm like, that's genius. That is absolute genius. Yeah.
And even on the Marder, like there's a lot of like tiny boxes and stuff there along the sides, and a larger scale kit would give you those as a separate part, but obviously you're having to engineer this that they're easy to build and still retain that detail. And I think the most fidgety bit on the Marder, or fidgety bits on the Marder, is the MG42 on the top, which I have moved off about 4 times now, and the gun rest. And even the gun rest actually slots into its own like little keyed position. It's not just set on the top, which again is a good bit of foresight over understanding the fragility of such a small part and trying to combat that by making it a bit more heavily attached to the kit, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it's a separate part and not molded onto the hull as well. I think we had the same one was on one of the other kits. Yeah, it was the Panzer, the Panzer 470 actually. It's got a separate part, and most other kits will see it molded on. This one, it's separate, so you can have it there, whatever you need to, blown off.
You could have it. You could, if you really wanted to, you could have it with the gun rest on the gun, but wouldn't be right unless you're putting them on the back of a train. But yeah, the Jagdpanzer 38 kits are superb, and I just wish there was a second set of track in the box, but then you'd be selling 10 tanks in a box instead of 5.
Absolutely,
instead of having that, you've got to choose. We would just all be running Marders and Hetzers.
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, the Hetzer on its own is fantastic as a support anti-tank option.
Yep.
The Marder 3 is also a really attractive possibility, though, because it's obviously cheaper than the Hetzer.
Yep.
But yeah, it is I understand your because it's like, which one do I choose? Which one do I choose?
Yep.
I want to have them both. I want to have them all.
Well, I mean,
I get you.
You could magnetize them. You know, when I look at how the tracks actually slot together, there's a way, and there's ways and means of making that work and getting it onto both kits. I will say though, if you're going to try and do that, the track sections are a little fragile because there's not much supporting that track until it's actually glued onto the vehicle.
Yeah, so unlike some of the other kits we've done where it's a solid back piece to it, because of the nature of basically a Panzer 38 hull, isn't it?
Yep.
38T, I think it was actually.
Yep.
So basically, it's really, it's detail. That's what I look at it as. The detail on it is absolutely beautiful, but it's not got that backing plate, so it's almost free running wheels. I mean, I've got my sprue here, and I don't think my webcam's good enough quality, so you'll have to take some photos for me. But yeah, I know what you mean. The fragility is an issue, but at the same time, yeah, it's there. The detail, I think, is more than a trade-off for it on my part.
I think to be honest, most people are going to pick what they want to run, and they're going to be happy with their choice. They're not going to worry about, oh, maybe I should have made some Marders instead, or maybe I didn't have enough Hetzers and I split the box. I did a 50-50 split with the box, and now I regret that choice or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an issue. There's going to be some people that are going to criticize it a bit more than others, but you're never going to please anybody. And to be perfectly honest, I'd be more than happy to just build Hetzers or Marders out of the box. So
yeah, or get a box of each, and that's the thing. And then you've got spares and whatever else. You could use it as a destroyed objective, even. The extra parts. Just saying,
Or you could be a real dirty cheat, and you could model a Hetzer hull down on a base.
On a large base actually behind the hill. Yeah, okay.
Just take that, just take the top hull and just have it there on the base so that it's dug in.
Or you could even get your tracks and put them in half and have all 10 tanks as hull in. Maybe, haul down into that. No. Buy 2 boxes, John. It's much easier. Do
the entire box without tracks. Do them all hull down and sell the tracks to someone that wants to build 10.
Big brain thinking.
Hey, I'm going to get you in trouble. I apologize. I know it's not. I know it's not going to be long till I see hull down Hetzers.
Oh, I want to see somebody do it now, just to get some excitement going in the comments. So yeah, that's all your new plastics. Apart from the infantry, which we mentioned, but both of us have failed to put anything together for. So we'll have to just pop some pictures of that in. And that was the assault infantry that we spoke about in the last video, the tank escorts. So they're a new plastic kit as well, new models, new poses and stuff. Mm-hmm. And as I said in the last video, it's a fantastic way to get assault troops in cheaply into your army. They ride into the back on the back of a Stalk all the way to the front line, get off and do some damage. So
it's all
new plastic kits.
I know there some resin metals coming as well, or is there some re-releases coming?
Yeah, so we've got the Panzer IV 42, which is the essentially rocket artillery on an armored half track. That is a slightly older kit that we had in resin and metal a while ago, but we've re-released now as a new kit.
Yep.
And that is a really nice one. I actually got it in the book here. I don't know if you can just see it here.
Yeah.
And they're the super armored half tracks. I think they're actually opal half tracks as opposed to the Hanamags. But they nice chunky kit that gets a bit more artillery, almost to counter, I suppose, the Katyushas for the Soviets. Yeah, almost. I mean, the Katyushas sort of go that way, whereas at least the German engineering goes that way. But it's another option if you don't want to take Nebelwerfers from D-Day lists, things like that.
Yep.
And then you've got your other tank hunter platoons that we've already seen before, like the Nebelwerfer artillery, things like that. You've got the 8.8 centimeter tank hunters as well. Mm-hmm. As well as the options you've seen. So you've got the quad AAs. So you have got those in there, as well as the light AAs, which are the mobile wagons and things like that.
Yep.
come into the book as well. So lots of releases you've seen already, some newer ones. The other newer ones as well, talking of tank hunters, was the Horn AC and the Elephants as well. So they're resin kits that we've had in the past.
Yep.
That we get those in a box. I think there's 2 of those in a box, if I remember rightly. I've seen.
I think so. Yeah.
So again, another tank hunter option. Obviously costs a lot more in points, but you're getting a heck of a lot more armor on that.
Yeah.
Heck of a lot more armor. And the gun itself is, it's so up there. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off. You want, less is more or more is less. It's the old adage, isn't it? It's the old question.
it's kind of, do you want to go a small elite German force, or do you want to have like the proper sort of old school Panzer division? Do you want plenty of everything? And then you're paying for that in one way or the other, or a fire brigade. Yeah.
Bit of everything. Yeah. Because one of the other kits we've got coming out is it's the Brumbar assault gun platoon. Yeah, we've seen these in the later stage of the mid-war book, but they were a slightly different Brumbar because they haven't got the Zimmerite on it.
Yeah.
So these newer ones are the slightly different model. It's a resin model again, but it's got the Zimmerite actually onto there.
Yeah.
Modelled in. Yeah. And I think it's got an ever so slightly different superstructure on top with the placement of the hatches and things like that.
Placement of hatches, and maybe placement of the hull machine gun was maybe a little different on the.
Yeah, I think it just basically they took the Brumbar idea and said, yeah, okay, this worked, but these things didn't. Let's improve it, as the Germans did throughout the war, actually, with a lot of their tanks. And so that's just another option that you can have from the set, and essentially that's indirect artillery that just takes up and over.
Yep. Again
from not superstructure. So it's not all about the light armored at all. You have got some heavy armored options in there. Essentially, it was that escalation of, well, the Soviets got IS-2s. What do we need? More armor, more armor. Which a lot of these tank development programs essentially came from, I guess, didn't
they? They all went a little mad towards the end as well. Ferdinand Porsche basically absolutely. Just went, "I'm going to build stuff, and you're going to use it, and you're going to like it."
Let's put a nice big engine in it, and a big gun, and lots of armor, and we're good to go.
let me revisit my my diesel electric idea again. And it's like, oh, please don't. Stop it.
Absolutely.
So
right, I think we're going to have to think about wrapping up now. I do apologise, John. I've just got lots to do. I've got lots to stick together and stuff.
Absolutely. So guys, as always, thank you very much for watching. Get your comments down below. Let us know what you think about the new kits. And if you are going to do a hull down Hetzer, please tell me and show me a link. just to annoy Chris a little bit. Anyway, guys, absolutely. Thank you so much again. And we will see you all again very soon.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.